As we're going into these masculine, feminine signs and the categories from here on in, we're going into a different layer of understanding the zodiac. Up till now, we've been looking at the zodiac by the light and the dark. Light's increasing, darkness is increasing, it's greater, it's lesser, and we're using the light factor to determine the energy and the vitality in the signs. So this is the most blatant, but probably the most ignored part of astrology, but probably at the same time the most important part. But then once we go beyond that, we go into mathematical divisions, mathematical patterns within the circle, mathematical divisions and patterns, and we begin to see meanings and relevance from these, from within these categories. So this is the first of them, the alternating. Every other sign has a positive nature, and when we get to the feminine signs reflective. They're not projecting where they are. They reflect, they measure, they gauge. They're evaluating, they're feeling, they're measuring, they're taking in. They take the impression in first before they give it importance. Whereas the projecting signs give the importance on projecting out before they necessarily know what they haven't necessarily checked it out as much. So these reflective signs, they're easy to see. Are Capricorns reflective? Do they measure? Do they hold within? Are they reflective? They're not so projective. They feel they're vulnerable if they project, so they're going to hold back. They're going to just measure more and be quiet. That's the Capricorn. Pisces, who knows everybody, is kind to everybody, is interested in everyone, but they're sensitive to everyone first. They're taking in the impression first before they're projecting who they are. So they have that sensibility to the other person, that receptivity. So Pisces, so where Capricorn's earth receptive, Pisces is water receptive. It's reflecting. It reflects in on what's right and what's wrong, who's real, who's kind, who's not. Our Taurus is reflective. Tauruses are the charmers in the zodiac, but they measure what's nice. This is pleasant. This is nice. Do you like me? Don't you like me? Am I going to get something? Am I not? They're measuring the value of things, but they're reflective. When you see Taurus men especially, they're a little bit close. They're usually closer to mom. They have a much more feminine side. They're taking in this. They reflect. They're not as projective as Aries or Gemini. Well, just wait a minute. They hold in a little bit. So these are really simple little things, but you don't have to memorize it so much as every time you look at it, you think of it and you connect each person to say, wait a second, is it reflective? Are they reflecting? And see how they're reflecting. And you begin to see there's 6 different ways of reflecting. 6 different signs, 6 different attitudes or manners to go about it, 6 different senses that have, there's 6 ways of reflecting, and that reflection is based on how independent, how responsible, how it's different types of reflection, but with the light and the darkness working underneath it. So the quiet charm or that measurement or that style of Taurus is the reflective side of it. It's difficult to buy clothes for a Taurus. If they don't like it, they're not going to wear it. Cancers are reflective. They're measuring the moods and the feelings. They can be pretty pushy, but usually when they reflect first, they measure first. They either get good feelings from you, or if they get bad feelings from you, if you hurt their feelings, then you get the reaction. But they're taking in first more than they're projecting. So this is the set. They can sense whenever somebody's beginning to get response. This is the beginning of the darkness increasing. So this is the place where in mythology it said that the soul enters into the zodiac, because it's the beginning of the darkness increasing, the beginning of the sensitive forces developing in. But for Cancer, it's just they pick up on just any kind of responsiveness or sensitivities. They're just measuring if someone's together or not, if someone feels okay or not right away, and so they have this inward pull, this inward moods first. Virgos, they're being self-critical. They're analyzing stuff. They're measuring, is this for real? Is this true? Is this not right? Could this be better? Can this be better? Can I do it better? They're analyzing, but that analysis puts them into a reflective mode. So Taurus, Cancer, and Virgo, even though they're spring and summer signs, they're the shy ones or the reserved ones of the summer signs. They have that reflective quality. So part of the puzzle will be, right now we're going to see it for the signs, then as we look the sun or the planets arranged the signs, we begin to see how this reflectiveness will apply to the moon or to the sun or to Mercury or to the way we think or the way we value things. There's different ways that we come that we can see how we use this or how we reflect. Scorpios, it's in the nighttime increasing. It's a socially judgmental. It's judging, is it fair? Are you really committed? Are we really together? Do you really trust me? Or can I really trust you? But it's sensitive. It's measuring whether you're trustworthy or not. And if they're not trustworthy, they'll either attack or pull away. But this reflectiveness is one of it's the magnetism or part of the qualities of the Scorpio. So each of these reflective signs is noticeable. Like you can say, okay, Pisces is feminine, so it's reflective. But you slow it down, say, what does that mean? Well, Pisces is going around meeting so many people, being sensitive, but they're measuring the reflective, what's kind, what's not kind, who's good, who's not good. They're measuring who they should be around or who they can help. So each sign has its own quality of reflection. And this is where you start to see some of the brilliant distinctions in the zodiac by seeing this. So this masculine and feminine quality is the first quality of the signs. Now, after this, we come back to the next set of categories come really from the seasons. Each season is divided into 3 signs. And the first sign of each season sets the theme and is the dynamic quality of that sign. So in winter, how cold it is in December, January, when it's Capricorn, determines how cold the winter will be. It's Earth, it's cold, the temperature's cold, and it's hard to get to do things. It takes extra effort, and the person has to drive to go do it. They don't push out, project to do it. Oh, if this has to be okay, if this has to be okay, let's do it. Then they'll. So this is the cardinal. They're called, the first sign of each sign is called cardinal. Second sign fixed. Third sign mutable. Third sign mutable. So the cardinal drives and sets the theme of the season in. The fixed sign tries to consolidate it or establish it or concretize it. And the third sign, those are the fixed signs. The third signs are trying to diversify and adapt it as many ways, adapt that impulse and extend that impulse as many ways as they can. So that's the mutable signs that take the multitasking approach. So the Capricorn measures things, the Aquarius sets up the plan, and the Pisces pulls it off and adjusts it this way or that way as it's needed. But they all feel a sense of responsibility to have to get through the winter. When we get to spring, daylight's greater, daylight's increasing. We have Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. So we have the 3 signs of things. The first sign, how hot it is at springtime on March 20th until April 20th. That how wet, how hot, how warm this determines how warm the whole spring will be. If it's still really cold through Aries, it'll be a later spring. So in spring it's important because you got to know when it's warm enough to plant seeds, to plant the garden. So in nature, there's a primary thing. You want to start it right on Aries, but you can't. If you do, the frost will come in and kill the crop. So that heat of Aries starts the season. So if the daylight's greater than nighttime, so you really feel it. Springtime, oh boy, thank goodness winter's gone, but it's still slushy and sometimes snowy, sometimes cold, depending where you are. And it still requires an impulse, but that impulse, that cardinal drive of Aries, I can't sit here anymore. It's spring, I got to go out, I got to do something. They push to get out. And that's the driving the cardinal. But the cardinal, that impulse of the cardinal sign of Aries, of the first sign of the season, that heat gets driven into the earth in Taurus. It gets pushed down into the earth, and then the earth warms up. And you can plant your crops sometime in Taurus, usually by Taurus. So you plant your crops. You're trying to, the heat is grounded into the earth warms up, the seeds grow, the plants begin to grow, and then by the time they get over the surface, Gemini is kind of the hay fever season. It's all the wind is blowing and the heat's gone from the sky down to the earth, and then it's come up in the air through the pollen, the seeds in the air. Everything's growing, things are blossoming, and it's really, you see the potential for the fall, because you see all the buds and flowers on the trees start coming in. They start in Taurus and they really build up to Gemini. So in Gemini, in Aries, you're going and doing whatever you have to do. By Taurus, you're selecting, I don't want to do that. This is more comfortable than that. You're measuring what you want to do. By Gemini, you're thinking, I can do anything. I can go here, I can go here, let's go this, let's go that. It's the most independent time and the freest time to go do things. So at this point, we're all trying to do our own thing. And it's really hard to sit in school for that May-June period of Gemini because it's so nice outside. So the Aries is the cardinal. Taurus tries to consolidate that independence, to ground it, and the Gemini is trying to diversify it and take it as many different ways as they can.